Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, back on F1 2020 as always, and we are back with some league racing. It's been a little while, and we are back with the SRC League, the league that I do on Wednesdays, and I have to say, the drivers in this field are absolutely insane. The competition is just so high, and this is probably the most competitive league, or kind of a league, well, it is a league on Xbox right now. It is just absolutely insane on what kind of pace you need to do. So this is my first lap at France in the AlphaTauri, partnering with my TSRL rival LCR Leopard, who you can hear in the background. And slipstreaming is allowed in this league, which it isn't for the majority of them. And trust me, you're going to need to do it when racing in here. Luck does a 27.1 as we now pick up the beautiful slipstream from LCR Leopard. We did practice this quite extensively before, and that was done to pretty much perfection. Most people were doing a slipstream as well, and I think for context, the time I did in TSRL to get me on the front row was a 27.1, and people are doing that as bankers. So coming into this race, I was actually feeling very good. France is one of my favourite tracks to drive on the game. For me personally, I just love driving around here, as we actually set a provisional pole position. But you can see TST Kowalski, as we'll go for a second run, which was invalidated, has done a 26.7, which is just absolute madness. But you're about to see the effect of not having a slipstream, because Leopard actually forgot to go out in time. And you can see we've lost about a tenth in total. So I'd say it's a tenth or just over a tenth advantage gain. But you can see we're actually going green for the rest of the lap, particularly through this corner, staying nice and tight and getting a very good exit. That gave me the confidence that I could actually improve a lot more on that lap. I did the 26.8 a few times in the practice with the slipstream effect. So now that's really what I'm aiming for here. So we're currently still in P3. We have Kowalski and VRT Raceway out ahead of us. And I thought there was a good chance that we could, in fact, even nab the pole position around here, because I'm running quite a high downforce, which for this track I feel in the race is absolutely crucial, because tyre wear, you can only really get up to lap 7 realistically if you're using the same tyres you did in quali, and then for the rest of the race it is a pain to get to the end of the race. So to be able to be doing this type of qualifying times on this setup, I was extremely happy with. And you can see we're half a tenth up, so this is a great lap so far. Going into the chicane, managing to navigate that pretty nicely, getting a okay exit, and we have just actually still gained a little bit on our time. Leopard could have been a little bit closer on this occasion, but still the slipstream effect was very nice, and we have improved ever so slightly. Going to this last sector now, this is where I knew I could improve quite a bit than I did in the previous one. You can see we're over a tenth and a half up, this time staying nice and tight, and you can see the exit. We've got rid over almost 2 tenths up on our lap so far. Said I did a purple middle, but I think that is incorrect. Go for here as the Delta is going all over the place. Getting a good exit. We're 2 and a bit tenths up now.
It's not pole, but almost.
I thought maybe it could be enough for pole, but it is a 26.9. A purple last sector in the end.
26.
With that setup, with really being a key focus on the race, I was very happy with that. But that was only enough for 4, for 26.9, almost 8.
It's like a 10.
Kowalski is probably one of the fastest people in the game right now. He actually challenges Jana Wotmir on PC, so quite often actually out-qualifies him as well. So his pace is just absolutely ridiculous. I think on raw speed, he probably is the fastest overall. Him, Bari and Jano on this game, no doubt in question at this moment in time. So starting P4, I was fairly happy with that, but you may have noticed the tyres are actually fresh as we have to restart lobby. So we've got 5 lights here, and away we go, trying to get a good start here, and we actually do get a pretty decent launch off the line. Going into turn 1, not taking any risks right now. Just don't need to do it. So I'm just trying to maintain the position. And now we're just going to slot in the trio of Kowalski, probably the fastest and raw speed in the game. CRG Lut, who is the F1 Esports Xbox Challenger Series leader, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually won round here in PSGL. And Felipe, who is probably the most improving driver right now on Xbox. So we've got some very, very tough competition up in front. And now we just need to stay with them. But the problem is, something I just mentioned, and you just saw with the tyres, the lobby had to be restarted because someone couldn't connect, or I think people were disconnecting from the game. That means we're starting on fresh tyres, which is really not what I wanted, to be honest, because this setup I've got on here with the high downforce, it's quite OP at the end of the stint, and it really relies on other drivers suffering with the tyre wear, because the one stop round here is actually very, very difficult. If you did the race on used tyres, you'd probably only be able to go to the end of lap 7 maximum, and to do 20 laps to the end of the race on hard is actually a very difficult thing. And if you go back to my TSRL race that I did, me staying out a lap longer proved to be so beneficial on the tyres at the end. We made up so much time. So starting on fresh tyres here kind of really eliminates that strategy where it's going to be difficult to get to the end. It kind of really just negates that now, which is not good for me. And now that means I'm going to have to really, really stick with these guys because I am lacking a little bit of straight line speed. So I was really hoping with starting on the worn tyres, it would play into my hands a lot earlier. Whereas now I'm going to have to try and hang on for quite a bit longer than I was expecting. So it's annoying, but you can't plan for these things. And yeah, it's frustrating, but I'm just doing my best right now to try and hang on with these guys. And when it works out, you get called a masterclass, but where it doesn't, a lot of people backseat drive and say that, oh, why have you done that? But believe me, it's much easier to say these things when you're actually driving itself, and especially against this competition, it's very, very difficult. But right here now, I'm just trying to do my best, but you can see we've already had to use quite a bit of the ERS because the guy's pace at the front was just really, really fast. I think the best I did on a second lap was a 30.8, 30.9, and that's when I was using a lot of my ERS with these high downforce wings. And with the fresh set of tyres now, they're going to be able to do that easier without pushing sides, because Kowalski does do that 30.8, so he's definitely not cruising. And I think his objective right now is to try and stretch the field as much as he possibly can, or maybe even try and break the DRS of CRG Luck, because I know he is quick enough to probably break the DRS of most people on this game right now. So this is really, really not good news for me, and because I was really hoping that these guys would try and settle into a nice rhythm, really try and think about the long part of the race. And now having to start on these fresh tyres, it just
pace is very fast.
Just isn't optimal for what I was hoping for in the race itself. So again, I'm just trying to do my best now, and these are probably the most important laps throughout the entire race itself. You can see we're doing a good job at maintaining the advantage to behind.
Esports in Canada last year.
And I think that is just going over some things throughout the race here. But you can see for this last sector, especially for this last sector, this is where I was definitely the strongest because of the more downforce. And the longer this stint goes on for, the more it should really play into my hands. But the problem is, again, without these tyres being too worn, their pace is still going to be quite strong for longer than it would have been previously, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It probably makes it sound like I'm just rambling on and stuff as well, but it makes a huge difference. It really did with this restart, and it means I'm having to work so much harder to stay within the DRS, because right now I really am working very hard. I'm keeping it enriched here, and you can see the delta is really creeping up to that 1 second mark now. Going through here, this is where I should be strong. You can see the delta is going down now ever so slightly, especially for these corners, but we're running quite low on the ERS here and having to push very, very hard. And we do just about get in the DRS, but you can see we're under almost 15%, which is really not what you want. So at this stage of the race, I knew it was going to be a very, very difficult one. I was just hoping that these guys would either just slow down and try and conserve their ERS or start to battle. But the thing is, when you run lower wings, you're using less of the power of the engine. You're letting the aerodynamics push you through the air, more in the straight line. So they're able to save a lot more ERS and regenerate it much, much better as well. So it's just crucial that if I want any chance to win this race, which I believe my best opportunity would definitely be in the latter part of the race itself, if I can hang on in this first stint on the hard tyres, it's really, really a big difference at the end in terms of the tyre wear and everything. So right here now, the gap is about 8 to 9 tenths of a second, still within the 31. So this pace is just absolutely mental right now. If you compare it to like TSRL, where it was a lot more relaxed and stuff, but here having to use the last part of my ERS because I just need to stay within it so badly now. And you can see we're getting close to the under 15% mark. Going through the delta split, let's see what it is. 0.9, and I think we just about get within the 1 second thing, but you can see we're in single digits of the ERS now, which is really, really not ideal. But as the race went on, I definitely was able to save a little bit more of the ERS now. So the tyre wear was starting to swing back in my favour ever so slightly. You can see we're running 3.9 wings on this occasion, but you can see again, just the straight line speed they gain on the straight is just absolutely insane. So I need to be closer than this. I always go on about this 6 to 7 tenth magic slipstream zone, and I'm not within that at the moment. I need to be much, much closer. You can see the gap is over 1 second now. So I'm gaining some time in these corners, but the detection point is on the exit of here, and the 1 second, you can see we have lost it now. And just look at the delta in the timing. It's 0.9 of a second. You will see that it's just go up and up and up, and you can see how quickly it's going up. It's going up. I'm losing almost 2 tenths in that straight. Gaining it back through the corners here, but it is just not enough. And yeah, starting to overdrive a little bit. It's trying to get back in that DRS zone as much as I possibly can. As I decide to box this lap, although I can go on for another lap, I was hoping that the guys ahead would maybe continue for another one, and I'd try and get an undercut or something like that. So, because if I felt like if I could get much closer, and it'd be easier for me to hang with them without using much of the ERS. That's what I was hoping for. So right here now, it's quite hard to judge when someone's going into the pits. So I've just committed to the pits. Unfortunately, Kowalski and Love also going to the pits. If I could turn back time and knew what they were going to do, then I would have continued for another lap, because then Felipe wouldn't have had the DRS and I should have been able to stay with him. So I was going to gamble for this undercut, and it's not going to pay off from the guys up ahead because they box as well. And it's just, as I said, really, really hard to tell when they are going into the pits. So I'm just hoping that we can try and have a good outlap. But the problem is we're running on about 38 or 39% of the ERS here. We're going to have to push very, very hard because the undercut isn't even that significant. I just wanted to be 2 to 3 tenths closer, or maybe half a second closer with the undercut. That would have given me enough. As we're coming through the last corner on the following lap, Felipe would have boxed by now, so he's going to have to fresh the tyres towards the end of the race, which again is going to be quite a big benefit. As he comes out of the pits, we've definitely gotten closer. We have definitely gotten closer, so we have gained about that half a second that I was talking about. And now this is not too bad for me. I can use him to drag me along and try and reharvest my ERS. But I had a feeling, due to me stream sniping, or probably having an engineer, he knows that I'm probably quite low on the ERS front here. So you can see on the exit of this corner, looks like he is pushing straight away. I'm just doing my best to not use any of the overtake button, because it's very, very hard to try and reharvest your ERS around this track. So I'm doing my best, trying to make up all the time on the corners as we get our, I think that's our second warning we've got, so we have to be careful throughout this race. Having to use a little bit of the ES on the exit here, because in the last sector we are pretty reasonably strong. Now coming up towards the end of that 12, we're still not too far away from leaders, but now we're coming up to some traffic, so people who haven't pitted of Presto Evans in the Alfa Romeo, and I need to get past him really on this lap as well, as Felipe's going to go for quite an easy pass down into turn 1. Presto Evans has nothing to defend with, and it's going to be quite an easy one. But right here now, I've got Sink Critch behind me, who's a very, very fast driver, been performing very well recently. It's crucial that I get past Presto Evans, because I think the advantage Felipe's going to have on those fresher hards, he's going to pull away pretty quickly from Presto Evans. But coming through here now, I wasn't expecting Presto Evans, especially on the start of the straight, to really defend so hard. But I'd already committed to the move, and I can see he's got the DRS, but he definitely used a bit of the overtake. So coming off this corner, I'm going to try and get a really good exit now. I need to stay within the DRS zone of Felipe. But on the exit of this, you can just see he's definitely using the overtake button, which...
He's using more of his DRS.
Again, I didn't really expect too much, because he is effectively a pit stop behind. So, yeah, it's frustrating, because if I could have got through here, you can see how much more downforce and grip we have with these tyres. And I knew in the last sector I was going to be quicker than Felipe. This is just holding me up a lot more than necessary, and it's just making me waste all of my ERS. So maybe in hindsight, not to commit, as we make a little bit of contact actually, in fact. Maybe to not have committed and then just waited for out of here instead, as now I have to use the remaining of my battery. But by this point, we're down into the single digit figures again, and Felipe is over 1 second ahead. So I've only got this sector to try and get back within that DRS zone, but with the fresher tyres he's got, I'm probably using a little bit of the ERS just to make sure he can get out of my zone. I'm giving it absolutely everything through here, but there really is, I don't think, much we can do, as going through the detection point, he's going to be easily out of the DRS. And I think we're about to see how much more of an advantage it's going to be. As you can see, the delta is 1.2, and that is just going to go up and up by probably over a tenth down the end of the straight, which it does, in fact. So that's how much time we lose, and that's just how much we needed to be within that DRS zone. So on lap 16, I decided to let Sink go behind me, because there was no point really fighting. I was hoping he had a good enough pace to maybe even try and keep the gap to Felipe, because Felipe has a 3-second time penalty. So I was hoping he could maintain that gap, and then I could close in at the end of the race. But now you are about to see what a lapse in concentration will do.
Oh, fuck's sake. That's why you don't look at the chat. I've got a 3-second time penalty. I was looking at the chat.
And yep, looking at the stream chat, so running off the track has given me that 3-second time penalty. But I was confident that I could remove that. So again, I'm trying to see if Sink had the pace, but over the course of the coming laps, you could see Felipe has actually pulled away quite a bit. But that has meant that I've actually managed to save up a lot of the ERS. So I just thought to myself, I got nothing to lose here. I'm just going to try and get past Sink Critch, and if I can't get my penalty removed, I'm going to try and pull out of this 3-second window. So right here, I'm going to use the ERS on the exit of this turn, trying to use as minimal amount as possible to get the overtake done. Hopefully he doesn't do a Presto Evans and fights this too hard, but he doesn't, luckily. We go back on the racing line, and you can see the gap is 7.4 to Lut and 5.4 to Felipe. So keep an eye on that gap here as I do another blast of the ERS again. But you can see the straight line speed again. It's very reliant, the setup, that we are in the DRS zone. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And going through that traffic and the race restart with the tyres, it really, really killed that opportunity. So I'm going to try and attempt to break his DRS once again. And you can already see how much time we've actually gained on the leaders as well. We're actually gaining quite quickly. So I'm just going to give it everything now to just try and even force him into a mistake, if it's even possible. Because I I feel like he's on like 2 warnings or something, so I'm just going to try and stretch him as much as possible. And on the exit of here, although he's going to have the DRS, I'm just going to try and use everything I have, because I was pretty certain I had a lot more of the battery than he did at this stage of the race. So I'm pushing very, very hard now. See, the gap to Felipe and Lut is starting to come down. But again, the effect of the tyres, since we were on fresh ones and we could go later in the race, it's not going to be as significant as it was if we went straight from the quali with the used tyres. I felt that this would have worked so well, and it's just so, yeah, man, it's just so frustrating and disappointing, because I felt like I just couldn't drive any faster than this. Really couldn't. I felt like I delivered quite well, apart from that mistake with the 3 seconds. Nothing more I could have done. But you can see here now, closing in quite quickly, and now we have just about, I think, got out of the DRS zone of Sync Critch behind. So this is exactly what we need. So on the exit of this, trying to get a very nice exit here, use a little bit of the overtake. We are definitely out of the DRS zone here now, and going across the line, we actually set our fastest lap of the race, and just making sure now that we try and maintain this gap going through into sector 1. But I think it's safe to say, well, not safe to say, because it's about 1.0 of a bit, but going through these corners, we're definitely going to have the more downforce, and you can see we are gaining quite a bit of time, especially on this exit you're about to see with the high downforce. We're gaining quite a bit of time here now, and we've only got a lap remaining after this, so we just got to do our best to try and pull out of this gap. But coming through into the penultimate corner now, in the end, we did actually catch a little bit of Lut and Felipe. Quite a bit, over a second, 1.3 seconds to Felipe in the end. But it's not going to be enough. And going across the line, we come home across the line to P4, but it's going to be P5. And I can confirm that penalty didn't actually get removed at the end, because that was deemed as a driving error. Although we did not get any more warnings for the rest of the race, it was still deemed as a driving error. So that penalty stands. Come home in P5, and yeah, man, to be honest, I really enjoyed that race, because really being pushed to your limits there, it was really insightful for me. And always looking back at races, you always learn so much. But to be honest, I really feel in this scenario that the setup would have worked so well if the race hadn't been restarted, or if we didn't have to navigate that traffic or be held in that traffic. If we started on used tyres, I think it could have been a very different race. And yeah, man, just want to say it's a lot easier to talk when you're not the racing, when you're watching. I know a lot of people like to comment and stuff as well, but if it works, you get called a masterclass. If it doesn't, then people say you don't know what you're doing. But that is the beauty of league racing. You cannot always have it go your way. So I really hope you enjoyed this. Really looking forward to my next one, Abu Dhabi TSRL. That was a great season finale. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, and I'll catch you very soon. Peace.